I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the queue to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
That it does. Everybody's lives has value, folks. And that's what the purpose of the First Earth Militia is, to help everybody out. We are all inclusive. We are here for everybody. And the phones are open this evening. So if you would like to talk, get in on the conversation, do not hesitate. We'd love to hear from you. I do apologize. I don't see the phone in front of me, Odin. So for the radio listeners, if you could read that one out real quick, please.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The telephone number is area code 929-436-2866 with a meeting ID number of 522-657-2748. The telephone number is 929-436-2866. The meeting ID number is 522-657-2748. We are the First Earth Militia. Join us.
Thank you very much, Odin. We were supposed to have a guest this evening, but apparently there's some sort of delay. So we're going to run an audible and just cover some different topics. The guest was supposed to be somebody who had contacted me in the past about her SSP life and family and some interconnections between my life and locations in a particular area that I had worked at. So hopefully we'll get her in on the line. Her name is Veronica Bartolini, and I'm just hoping she's okay right now and will make it into the show this evening. But since she's not here, Odin and I will take control of things, and we'll make sure that the First Earth Militia has a mission this evening. And one of the things that I would like to discuss is kind of a why. You know, a lot of times folks don't really understand how we got to where we are. And in all of the turmoil that's been happening, we forget the history of things. I think that contemporarily, we've been very focused on the propaganda at play, but it's just contemporary propaganda. And lest we forget, this is a game that's been going on for a very long time. And the history of this and how we got here is of great value. So there's Long Island is basically a melting pot of history, of alphabet agencies, military facilities, some more famous than others. I guess a lot of folks now are familiar with an area known as Montauk, where the Montauk Project occurred. There was a Netflix series that came out that popularized this historical event. And a lot of folks don't really know that that television series was initially to be aired under the title of Montauk. And they were told they're not going to be able to air it under that name. They have to change the name. So in that process, it turned out a whole bunch more got changed. And lo and behold, 3 seasons later, the Montauk Project, which was one of the most nefarious Nazi collaborations with the United States government, turned into a grand finale with teenage kids singing in the local shopping mall. So you can get that Disney effect on history and that rewrite. And it can be very frustrating because it doesn't mean that these things didn't occur. I would suggest to folks, if you would like to see the less Disney version of the activities of what transpired on the east end of Long Island back in the day, also on Netflix, lest we forget that these folks do actually put the truth out there. There's a television series called Dark, and they present it as happening in a town known as Winden in Germany, but it's not. It's actually representing Shoreham, Long Island. The nuclear power plant in the TV series is representative of Shoreham, Long Island, and the Brookhaven National Labs facility, which is right across the street. Brookhaven National Labs is CIA, CIA, CIA. That's all there is to it. Go to the CIA website, go to their Freedom of Information Act section, which I've done videos on. Go to Deciphering My Experience on YouTube, and I've made videos that show you how to mine the CIA website for Freedom of Information Act requests. You can simply go in there and type in Brookhaven, Long Island, and you'll see all the CIA activity that has transpired there. They admit to it. It's not hidden anymore. It's a massive CIA facility across the street from Shoreham Nuclear Labs, which is right next to Wardenclyffe facility, which was Nikola Tesla's joint. That's where he functioned at on Long Island. Nikola Tesla stated very clearly and often that there are certain places on this planet that are better for working with and or studying energy than others. Apparently, nobody has ever disagreed with Mr. Tesla because nobody's ever stopped working on energy in that area since he first put his structure up. They simply blew his up, built a nuclear power plant next to where his facility was, funded by the locals, because at the time it was built, the power supply was privately owned entity on Long Island. What an oddity that a privately owned corporation was allowed to build a nuclear power plant. But lo and behold, at the time they were about to turn the switch on, somehow out of nowhere, a grassroots movement popped up stating, after years of construction, we don't want this power plant. It's not a good idea. It's dangerous. So the private company said, since you don't want this and we misread the situation, we're going to not turn it on for you. So then it turned out that the people now have to flip the bill for the power plant that they paid to build. And now, since it's a not turned on nuclear power plant that still requires all the safety protocols and regulations to maintain it as a shut down power plant with a fuel supply, it became a very heavy anchor on that local society. So they then said, well, we'll get rid of it then so you guys don't have to pay for it to be here anymore. Since you don't want a nuclear power plant and you don't want to pay for the waste, we'll get rid of it so that you don't have to do that. So guess what they did with it? They moved that fuel supply across the street to Brookhaven National Labs and built a nuclear reactor to power the collider. What a cool bait and switch, folks. What an interesting tactic that the people got to pay for it completely. It's still in their geography. It's still a nuclear power plant that's firing every day that, according to the bluegrass movement, they didn't want. So it got shut down. So they paid for everything about this, but never got a return on their investment. Bam. That's how things work, folks. You like that one, don't you, Odin?
Brother, that's hold on. Let me try this walk with you. So a grassroots movement basically comes out of nowhere. Hold on, let's start from the beginning. My man Tesla's got his little. Yeah. Okay, let's start from the beginning. So you got Tesla saying that there's no place better than here to have a energy efficient power supply.
Yep. Okay. He called that location Wardenclyffe.
Oh, okay.
On the map, and Wardenclyffe.
And it shows it.
Oh yeah. His building's still there.
Okay.
The foundation's still there. I've been there. I have pictures.
Oh, I can't argue. I can't argue with it. He has pictures, people. So I mean, at least you know this guy's real, right? All right. So the question I have is, then they build a nuclear power plant. Before they turn the switch on, some grassroots company comes in, social, conservative, whatever, liberal, who
Yeah,
cares, wanting
save
to
the
come in
earth.
and say, hey, save the earth, peace, flowers and daisies and pansies and
Mhm.
whatever.
They apparently didn't
And
notice
they
this place the whole
and they
time it was
literally
getting built.
hold on. I'm just dying here because I'm sitting here. Does anybody see Cover Up?
Yeah, big time.
I mean, that's all I got. That's the first question I say. A grassroots company comes in. They never heard of.
Mhm. Well, I
bet you
don't
the
want to say
company
it was.
grassroots.
It was. I'm using the term loosely, like a grassroots movement. Like all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this murmuring through the community starts to stir that the power plant's a bad idea. All the people that have been working to build it for years now, making money off of it. Now all of a sudden, the whole mentality was being switched, and it was, like you said, it was a big cover to get these folks to pay for nuclear power plant, you know, through a third party switcheroo that the power plant eventually wound up on CIA property.
Oh, hold on. It moved. It instantly moved after the grassroots company said, "Hey, we're going to take over this." Has anybody ever thought about how much it costs
It
for
wasn't.
a
I wouldn't say it
grassroots
was
company?
instant. I'm definitely not going to say that it was instant, but you could see the gears turning on this machine the whole time. You could see the machinations, and especially after the fact. I mean, when all is said and done, now that nobody knows there's a nuclear power plant across the street from Shoreham, the only people that know anything about it refer to a particular building known as the light source. That's what they call it now, the light source, for the experiments that they do out there in the colliders and things like that. They need a ton of power, so it comes from a nuclear power plant. I mean,
Oh, they need a ton of power. So they have a nuclear power plant, like 3 Mile Island type thing.
mhm.
And they just built this during the time Tesla was living. So you got to think of the time period, people.
They didn't build it during Tesla's time. This is
No,
post
they
post
did it
Tesla.
after
Yeah.
post Tesla, after his time. But let's think about this. The community gets together and they have it built, and then you get some grassroots company coming in and they say, "Hey, you know something? We don't want this no more." After they spent millions of dollars and millions and millions and millions of dollars to have it built, now they got a grassroots company coming in telling you, "Nah, guess what? We're gonna change the name of your football team. We're gonna play lacrosse,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
they're gonna move it to another stadium."
mm-hmm. Yeah, just a
What?
big quick switcheroo.
Is anybody following this? Is the dominoes not working?
No one's following this. It's actually technically old news there now. Like, so now the power plant's been up and running on the other side of the street for years,
Hold on.
decades at this point.
Other side of, hold on. They just moved it to the other side.
Literally, they moved it to the other side of the street.
I'm trying to get this picture out, and I want people to catch on.
Yeah, they literally moved it to the other side of the street. So you had Wardenclyffe, which was Tesla's facility on Long Island. It's on the North Shore. You can basically take if my memory serves me correctly, I think it's the William Floyd Parkway north all the way to the end of the road and hang a left. And then your first right is where Tesla's facility is. That same parkway, if you had gone up and if we went to the end and made a right instead of a left, okay, and then made your first left, then you're at Shoreham. So they're like that close to each other. And then if you had gone to the end of the highway, made a right and a right, you're at Brookhaven. So these properties are damn near touching. And every single one of them sits on what was previously called Camp Upton, which was one of the largest military facilities in the history of the nation. Okay. Camp Upton had on top of it, at a point in our Long Island history, a facility known as Camp Siegfried, which was the recreational facility for all the Operation Paperclip people we brought over. It was a Nazi camp on the North Shore of Long Island in an area now referred to as Yaphank or Germantown.
Germantown. I heard of it.
Yeah, there was a big debacle in the 90s about it because technically, at the time, the neighborhood was a giant co-op because of its history. It did make the news. So what was going on? It was technically illegal for people of color to buy in the neighborhood still in the 90s.
I'm dying over
In the
here.
90s.
The games that the people play are
Mhm.
becoming more and more obvious than, I mean, if you just sit back and think just a little
Mhm.
bit.
Mhm.
So hold on. Why did you just decide to build a bigger building?
Say that again?
Why didn't they just create a bigger building, and put it there and don't have to move it next door?
Oh, right. Yeah, run some wires across the street. Yeah, because it's called a cover story. The power plant's gone now, everybody. It's okay. It's gone now. We got rid of the nasty power plant. Or we just moved it across the street and hooked it up to weird CIA machines.
Oh, okay. So I wonder what they were really doing in the nasty power plant.
Check out the series Dark and learn about what you can do when you take god awful amounts of electrical power and start messing with the magnetosphere.
Ooh.
I
mean, would it be anything like the TV show Stranger Things?
The dark version's more true because it's more dark. The Stranger Things is like a Disney version of history.
Oh, soft. It's kind of soft and purdy with some innuendos and some,
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, all of these things are pieces to the puzzle. One is trying to take a big picture and take a piece of the puzzle and shine it up really nice to stick it in the puzzle to try to make the puzzle look brighter than it is. The other one is still just a piece of the puzzle, but they're not trying to shine it up and make it any brighter than it is. They literally called the show dark for a really good reason. It's not a feel good show. But there's some truth in there for you. There's a lot of truth in there for you. And that's a fact of life, as you know, and a lot of folks know, is that reality is honest, and honesty hurts. I mean, the truth hurts is a very old statement. And a lot of people are looking for some sort of comfortable truth in their life. I get the intention. Everybody wants to feel good. And when they don't, they look to others for information, and they'll take what they can get. It's like reaching for a bottle. A little baby's crying. He's having a temper tantrum. Nobody really knows what's the matter with the baby, but you give him a bottle and he stops crying. And that's like 90% of society right now is nobody feels happy, but nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to address the issue or identify the problem, but they all want to feel good. They want positivity for positivity's sake. And it's sad because it just shows there's not a lot of people that are truly ready for a fight. I mean, it is what it is. Some people can step
I
up.
always said
That's what the First Earth Militia is for. That's what Global Enlightenment Radio Network is for. That's what Deciphering My Experience is about. It's about finding people and connecting with people that want to get involved with the fight. I mean, I think I mentioned it on a previous episode that Mark Passio, I adore the man's intellect. And he constantly says that right thought is a priority, but right thought that's not followed with right action is pretty much worthless. And I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, it's one thing to say I have, an idea, but if you can't put it into practical application, if you can't actually do what you say you can, there's really little value to your words.
I have a question for you. I mean, I'm still going back to laughing my tail off. I mean, the movie's named Dark, and I'm trying to understand on how dark it really is. I mean, I heard from Penny Bradley and others that they did experimentations and they literally mind wipe and mind control, create alters and twist people to the point of breaking. I mean, in all honesty, I, it scares me.
It's very true, and that's what people do need to understand. The show does depict, in some capacity, the experiments on children. They do have a chair, like the Montauk chair, and it has a massive amount of power input to it. And the show does depict that there are children negatively impacted by being put in this chair. So that is part of the history that folks need to understand, is that these projects were very willing and able to gather folks for experimentation. As the CIA documentation states very clearly, unknowingly or knowingly. It didn't really matter to the government. As long as they could find the right specimen, they would bring that person in. If they could do it with that person knowing, so be it. If they needed that person anyway and they couldn't know about it, then they did it unknowingly. They had paperwork processes for every direction. And speaking of people being experimented on against their will, it looks like our guest showed up.
Oh, hold on. Let me put. Hey, we don't put her in no chair. You know what we gotta do? We gotta stand her over there and let her sit, have a cigarette, and smile. And,
there you go.
Take a deep breath.
Oh.
Now the great lady is here. Veronica.
I need to. Oh my gosh, you guys! I thought it was at 7.
See what I mean?
You know, I'm in my vehicle. My daughter's getting a piercing, and well, I hope I look okay.
Welcome back.
I thought it was at hi, Eric and I thought it was at 7 p.m. my time.
Oh, no worries. I
Oh,
messed
sorry.
those things up too.
So how's everybody doing?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you were able to make it. I had some questions here for you, and I was hoping that we're going to get this hashed out. So it's like it's kind of perfect that we were just transitioning to the conversation on SSP stuff and history about these programs, and how there were folks that were experimented on against their knowledge. That is literally where we were just at.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you can have some stuff on that. But since you just showed up for the audience, let's start with maybe an introduction. I know you, Veronica, just through the groups that we are collectively in, where we all meet and chat and try to get things figured out. I have seen some of your videos with Penny, and also James Rink, I believe you did a video with as well that I have seen. So I do know some about your past, but I don't want to pretend to be an expert or speak for you. I just know that you're a veteran. But if you would like to start off and just maybe let folks know something, and then we'll jump right back into the convo.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little nervous. I told Penny, I'm like, I don't know what to say. You work for NASA, all this stuff. And let's see. I just I know you from Penny's shows, and then you started doing your shows I think once or twice a week. And Daryl's been kind. The last time you and I spoke, he's like, just hop on the conversation. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I just had an awakening in February of 2017. I was looking at all the videos of Max Spears and Miles Johnson, and I'm like, holy F, like I know that I did serve with him, and what? I was a super soldier. Like, how did all this happen? I started getting some memories. I contacted well, Susan Long contacted me. She's like, I remember you from the Mom Talk. And then I got to talk to Penny, and I asked her, how do I get all my memories? And then what brought me to you also was one of my SSP brothers, his name is Johnny Gomez Paz. He said, hey, Beto, he's a cool guy, you know, you should listen to him more, or, you know.
I like Johnny.
And I'm like, hey, you know. And then I sent you a picture of my Tío Claudio, because I'm like, I think because he used to work for NASA. And I'm like, what if he worked with Eric? And then you said that he kind of like looked familiar. So yeah, I've been in all these projects. I have a long list of projects. Project Mannequin. I discovered Crystal Gates on one of my regressions with James Rink. The one with the dolphins. I also have the dolphin DNA. I have the Draco blood. Hulk. And then I finally have someone that remembered me. I knew somebody was going to remember me, because I'm like, I'm not that crazy. Like, somebody has to remember me. So Jamin Vasquez remembered me from one of the flashbacks. He did see me working with Max Spears and Mars. And then he did see me in the Regent tank as the Hulk. And it's been tough, because I'm like, why am I so angry? Like, why is it that I can just I used to break things and punch walls before I became a cop, and I'm like, I can't do this, I gotta control the anger, and I didn't understand what it was. I now understand that it has to do with the green and the black goo, with the Hulk program, with the Nakwafen program. I mean, it's just been a ride and a half, and I'm still not done.
Mhm.
I had a near-death experience in 2010 where I died for 3 days. I was in the hospital for a month and a half, and I tried to exit this planet, but it didn't work. So, and
Mhm.
they won't let me leave. So I'm here.
Mhm. Excuse me. I hadn't caught previously that you said that your uncle was in NASA, or I forgot. I know we had spoken on it a little bit, but that part might have got past me. And I will say that since you've brought this up and we've been trying to figure out this angle, I know you had sent me pictures and it was a little bit challenging for me. I think I mentioned to you it's because
Mhm.
the work gear, like you showed me him in like dress clothes, like in an office environment, and I feel like I do remember him, but I picture him in the jumpsuits for the company that he worked for. They would have had a hard hat on. They would have had safety, buffs on. They would have had safety glasses on. So I feel like when I take that picture and I assemble all the safety gear on the guy, I'm like, yeah, I do know that guy. He was at my site. Um,
Mhm.
so I don't doubt that. And this is what amazes me about these things. And why I'm doing what I'm doing is to try to get folks to connect, because I think we'll rapidly find out that we've all been involved in these things more so than
Mhm.
most understand. Like Penny and I have said before that and you're in this group as well. We're a failure of the system. We weren't supposed to remember. There's
Mhm.
way more people involved that don't remember, have no recollection, and that shows the system's working well. So I'm happy that you reached out. I'm happy that the other folks in the groups were able to get this direction, because I'm very interested to figure this out. So like we had just decided to have this conversation to get the ball rolling, but I'm intrigued because your uncle's story and your story is obviously very pertinent to you, and that's why you reached out to me. So I mean, I did work at this facility. I'm so curious as to what your uncle's history is and what he means to you. So I guess throw it out there. What's going on?
Ah, well, I don't want to talk anything bad,
Mhm,
but while he was a geologist, gemologist, he worked in Spain, and then he let go of our family.
mhm.
Is this okay like this if I do it this way?
Um, yeah, that's working. It's moving
Yeah.
a little bit now, but it transitioned.
So,
So I guess like in a way, like who would you say your uncle was? If I was to ask you, who was your uncle? Who was he?
I think it had to do something with the program of the Mason and the Illuminati,
Mhm,
and with the sacrifice that my father's not here, and he left the family. So we all try to reach out,
mhm,
but no. And as soon as I started talking about how I feel that he did involve my father in this way, sadly, I got a friend request from his wife, and we don't talk. And other family members have gotten also. My one of my cousins, she got a request also, and she says, "Well, there's no. In other words, why now? Why now that I've woken up and I'm speaking about all these things that happened to me? Why now? Like, are they after me now? Because we're targeted individuals. But the thing of it is, with me, I'm not afraid anymore. I am very much protected. You know, a lot of us go through so much, and they try, to hurt us in more ways than one, but we make it. We are sovereign. We are very powerful. And it's once you come, what I try and talk about in my YouTube channel is, when you find out who you truly are and unconditional love, baby, nothing else matters. Like, no fear, no pandemic is gonna get you. It's like, that you know who you are. Where the power comes from is your heart, your unconditional love. yes, have boundaries. Yes, don't sell your sword. Heck no, I got two right here. But especially with the Kruger program, right? All these go gadget gear that fly out from your hands and your body armor and your body itself. It's so fun and amazing what I'm learning and what I'm listening to, what I'm seeing. But it's just as long as you know that and you stay true to yourself, nothing can really hurt you, It's just little matrices going around and, entities trying to mess with your frequency, your vibe, your energy. But once you know truly who you are, nothing can stop us. Nothing can stop you.
Exactly. And I think more
Mhm.
people need to hear that message nowadays, especially in these times, that we can all reconnect. That yes, each one of us is our own little powerhouse of intention. But now when we all start to reconnect and work together, many hands makes light work. So I like that idea of us of moving that way. And
Mhm.
now
You know what's weird, Eric? Speaking of Spain,
mhm.
this before I woke up, I saw I haven't talked about it yet. Okay, so this is new information. I get these visions and these flashes and downloads. People call them spiritual downloads or whatever. And I saw something coming. Either it has to do with Spain, but I also got it was called the Mayanes. And I looked up that word and I'm like, okay, well, what is it? It has to do with the Spanish one of the bloodlines from Spain.
Okay.
And then I saw the word San Francisco and I heard rally. So I don't know, like when I get these downloads, I just put them out there and I'm like, okay, guys,
Mhm.
whether if it's going to be a negative thing, as a collective, let's go back in our mind. What I usually do is I'll go back before I go back to sleep and I'll make what I want to see, something positive, But see, like with Project Looking Glass and things like that, because I love Tesla too, and I've made videos on Tesla and I've had regressions with James Rink about Tesla.
Oh, nice.
Like what I see is this, huh?
I just said, oh, nice. I'm a big Tesla fan.
I love Tesla. My great grandfather worked with him in one of my regressions that I saw. So I'm like, okay, the Mach 1 and Mach 2 Project Looking Glass, the one glass that the president has now, okay, he can see the future. Some people need to be hooked up to certain AI or certain technology to see the future or to see what's going on around them, but not us. See, that's why they chose us super soldiers as little kids, because we would go in there with just the intention of finding out what is the truth, okay? But what happens is some people want to only see positive outcomes, okay?
Mhm.
So that they're blocking themselves. They're blocking their
They're filtering
future.
reality because they're not actually open to the truth, and our brains love to filter reality for us. So that would make them detrimental to that program. They're coming back with a
Exactly.
bias.
Right. And I try and stay away from biases. So what I saw is I saw a project or something. It could be an explosion, something to do with a rally in San Francisco. Something's going to happen. It has to do with technology and it has to do with the bloodlines from Spain. Now, I'm part of that too. But anyway, not the mayonnaise. It's just that that's the name that came through. And like what I say is I'll tell what I see. Like when people do readings with me, I'll tell them, look, first don't kill the messenger and I can tell you your future, but you can always change that because we have the power to go within and change it
Mm-hmm.
just by thought. The thought, the word, the action.
Yep.
And some people are like, well, I'm afraid to go with you because I don't want to know. And I'm like, oh, come on, it's going to be okay. Like, with numerology too, I see a lot of equations, numbers. I was also a pilot in one of my altars. So I will see even numbers and letters up I know it sounds crazy, but up in the clouds, and I'll write them down. I'll wake up with coordinates because I was also involved with Project Stargate 1. I don't know exactly what codes or what I gave them, because when I spoke to David Morrow about a year and a half ago, he says, you gave them something for Stargate 1 for them to use, and they're still using them years ago. And I'm like, I wonder what it is, but when I do see the original Stargate 1 and 2, the old movie, they have 2 discs. It's like, wow, it just seems familiar. It's it's interesting, all the technology. But anyway, that's going back to SSPs. That's why they used us as little kids, because we could stay unbiased. And now with all this programming, I'm pretty much here to decode the programming of religion, politics, education,
Follow that.
the judicial system, all of that, a code breaker.
Yep. An
So
underminer. Now, in your schooling, when you were a young child, did you get taken out of class to go to a talented and gifted or
yes,
GATE program?
I
How
hated
did
it
that work for you?
every day.
How would you describe, literally? So you're in class, okay? You're in class, and I remember they used to come and knock on the door and basically say, "All right, all the tag kids or GATE kids, whatever the heck it was, it's time." And for me, we went to the library, and that was an event. I'm curious, on your end, how would you describe? So you get pulled out of the classroom. What happens?
Okay, it was ESL. They would always blame my Spanish, that they would say that because I spoke and read perfect Spanish first, and then at 3 years old I was taking a Head Start because my mom couldn't stand me. I had what they call ADHD, couldn't sleep. To this day I don't sleep hardly. So I was taking a Head Start, and then as I got older, from kinder on, I would be taken out for ESL, English as a Second Language, to a portable. And I didn't like it. It was me and 3 other kids. Every day it just seemed like the same thing. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Mi nombre es. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is, oh gosh. And then they had these tests that we would take with these little bubble tests all the time. I had hearing tests. Before I forget, when I was talking to one of my SSP friends, his name is Andy Vasquez. He told me that he's Jamin's brother. And then Silvio Vasquez too. I finally met them in person, by the way, before I forget, here in town. And I just cried because I'm like, I finally get to meet super soldiers like me that are real. Like,
Nice.
I'm not just on the camera, And I appreciate them very much. And I appreciate James Rink for hooking us up like that. But anyway, he was telling me, did you ever get selected to be what they call security in school? So when I was in 5th grade, I was in security. And then when I was in 6th grade, I was a captain. I had a bronze badge that they gave me. And then they give you these like strings that they put, like they're orange strings that come across for patrol.
Your little hall monitor.
Like, yeah. And I would like chase kids around the school, and they hated me because I'd get them. I'd get the boys. But yeah, I had to say that before I forget, because he brought that to my attention, and I'm like, you know what? I still have my certificate, and I'm glad you reminded me, because they put you in all these little projects. But yeah, ESL, the hearing test, the vision test.
It always strikes me as odd, the activities that occur when they start to siphon kids out of the classroom from the eyes of everybody, and they go in other directions, and what these programs do.
Yes. And when I was in high school, I was a freshman, and they said, oh, by the way, you have a 7th grade reading level still. I'm like, oh, heck no, you need to go to this special class. So here I go. And I got so upset that I'm like, I'm going to prove them wrong. So by the time I was a junior and senior in high school, I was in advanced placement English, and I was 2 years straight in academic decathlon. So academic decathlon was awesome because you were tested in math, science, English, everything. And I felt like, man, I feel so smart, but in actuality, yes, you are smart. But the thing of it is you were made fun of by other kids. Oh, you're the nerd. I was in music since I've been playing my violin since I was in 5th grade. I'll listen to something and I'll get on. I took a master class in writing music. I can play a concerto from beginning, middle, end, rewind it. I can see a movie, middle, end, whatever. I have a photographic memory. And I've asked people, don't you guys listen? Can't you guys play a music piece? Or can you play a movie? And my other SSP friend, Colin Gillespie, which I am appreciative of him too, he said, not a lot of people could do that, Veronica. And I'm like, whoa, I thought everybody could see colors. I thought everybody could see those little things flying, et cetera, in the air.
Yeah, it's funny what we grow up and learn as our own individualized experiences. And I think it's funny because I think we see them as individualized because we just don't share enough. I was just talking to Rich and Linda from the Mr. and Mrs. Smith show. I was chatting with them on the phone about some stuff, and just this whole idea that maybe out of your whole life, 80% of the stuff that you experience is stuff that makes
Mhm.
sense, right? And you can share with everybody immediately. That's all. And the other
Mhm.
20% is like an individual
Right.
experience. No worries. It's so it's just a different experience. And those are the things that we don't share because it doesn't make sense. We can't explain it, But what I'm trying to do is get that 20% conversation going on. Is that I think everybody's experience totally has value. It absolutely shouldn't match. That 20% should be different. And that's the conversations I want everybody to engage in, because that's where the truth is at. That's the I guess the darker side of things would be a way of looking at it, because the lighter side stuff is the fluffy stuff we all agree on to begin with anyway. That's
Mhm.
the easy conversation. I mean,
Mhm.
that's anybody can do that. If I
Eric,
asked you, oh, what was
mhm.
like homecoming like in your high school years? I mean, it's a foo-foo conversation. It's easy, it's agreeable. But if I asked you about the more darker things, the 20%, that's the harder conversation.
Mhm. No, before I forget, Eric, I was thinking about this the other day, how when I was a kid, they would take my blood a lot.
Really?
I would have pneumonia.
Uh,
I would skip school because I was sick,
mhm,
and then Penny says it's something to do with our negative O negative blood. Well, I have O negative blood type, and how the weather here on Earth, it's so different from where we're from
mhm.
originally. And it's like, it's really just all the pollution and stuff, it's kind of hard to breathe and things
It
like
does
that.
make
So I
me
would
wonder
miss
when you
a
have
lot of, huh?
excessive it makes me wonder when they do give excessive medical attention to kids for certain things, because that, again, it's
Right.
also indicative. It does happen. Myself personally, I apparently had a lot of EEGs when I was a kid.
I did too.
Yeah, which is not that normal for a standard kid, but apparently if you're in the SSP programs and Stargate and things like that, that's one of the telltale signs is having a savage amount of EEGs.
Mhm. Even as an older person, 3 years ago, I had a TIA.
Mhm.
So it's like a stroke in your brain. And they put me on a CPAP. I was weighing 271 pounds. They were giving me injections on my back. I was like not being able to walk. They wanted to take 4 vertebrae out of my neck because it's bone on bone. And I threw away the CPAP a year ago. I stopped taking the psych meds, the sleep meds, the heart meds 2 years ago. I said, F this. I don't know how, okay, because people would talk about activating the DNA and stuff like that. And I did it on my own. I was able to lose a lot of weight. I'm at 175 right now. And I take care of myself more. I'm eating more organic. I don't drink any pills. I like, if I really am in pain, once in a while I'll take like an ibuprofen, but it's like, or Tylenol, but I don't want that stuff. I am grateful for one of my SSP brothers. He sends me my supplements every month, and I'm grateful
Nice.
for that, because
Excellent.
I'm on government help, and I
Mhm.
had to go through disability, and it's like, it's been tough. But what I was wondering, what I was thinking about when they were taking the blood, do you remember as a kid? I was born in 71, so I'm second generation SSP. They
Mhm.
would take the blood, and there in the room they would mix it in a centrifuge. And nowadays you don't see that.
Mm.
Do you recall that with the
I
with the
don't
test?
recall that as a child, but I'm familiar with the process. It's funny
Hmm.
that you say that, because I I know the last time that happened to me was at South Pole, and they were centrifuging my blood. I had sustained an injury, and it was part of what I had to do to, get medically PQ'd again, was go through the process. And I remember them drawing my blood, and they kept putting it in the sampler, and it was given a bad reading. So they would have to take another sample. And
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not a wimp, so to say, but I mean, they kept pricking my finger so many times because the test wasn't working, that I was getting like shell shock, like physically, like I was like now
Hmm.
twitching now at her coming at me again to prick my finger, because I think she had probably pricked every finger like 3 or 4
Oh.
times at that point. I'm just like, come on, what's with this machine? I'm gonna bleed out before the test works.
It's like they were doing it on purpose or something. Huh?
That's what I felt like at the time. I was like, really? You can't really just put, and you're not going to just do the exact same thing again. Oh man. It's too
Yeah, but I didn't like it, Eric, being pulled out in class all the time. You know, I knew, first of all, I already knew that I never fit in. I was a klutz, you know. Another thing I was telling Penny the other day is like I feel like I can walk through walls, and she's like, yeah, because in with the programs we are able to walk through anything, you know. But it's like, and then you make yourself little and big. And sometimes when I'm just driving, I kind of drive in a sensory way. Like I feel the vehicles, or I'll feel the energies, and it's, yeah, I can see. I have to wear, like, you know, I'm blind. I have to wear the contacts or whatever, or glasses. But it's weird. Like it just, well, we're not of this world, I guess you can say, you know, because we're
Yeah,
not.
my eyes have been crazy as of lately. I've worn
Mhm.
glasses basically my whole life. I think I got glasses when I was in like the
How old were
third
you when
grade.
you first?
Third
Third?
grade, I think, which was actually funny because I was doing excellent in school. I was a savage little student when I was a little kid, and I was doing extremely well. And it was funny because I started to have some difficulty in class. And I guess the teacher noticed that I was like, squinting or walking up to the board with my, notebook to take notes or whatever. So at that point, they noticed I was having trouble. When it turned out
Mhm.
that I went to get my eyes tested, I was like blind as a bat. They're like, how is this kid learning anything? He can't see.
That's
I
funny
was
that
like,
you mentioned it. Hmm. Did you used to sit in the back or the front of the class when before you got your glasses?
I had kind of, it was alphabetical order. It was Catholic school. I sat wherever
Oh,
they
okay.
told me to, or they'd hit me with a ruler.
My mom went through that. She would get hit so many times in Nogales,
Oh, yeah.
Arizona. She's like, they would hit me all the time.
Oh, yeah. People don't believe the stories.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, they didn't really beat us until we got older. I mean, when they were little, it was just slapping us around, But
Right.
when we got older, we got whacked.
I remember in elementary, I was playing in the playground. I was playing tetherball. That's why my fingers are all messed up, and basketball, of course.
Mhm.
But I was seeing this kid, a friend of mine, a boy. He was being like punished, you know, in his butt. And remember those they had holes, those wooden
Oh, the
things,
paddles.
paddles. Yeah, he was getting paddled. I'm like, man, I'd hate to be that kid.
We didn't have those, but we had yardsticks at the
Yeah,
chalkboard.
the yardsticks.
Those would be taken out in a blink of an eye. You get whacked silly.
Yeah, my mom said that those nuns were ferocious with them sticks. I'm like, dang, that's crazy.
We had a
Um,
principal, and she had a big old nun ring because they'll tell you how they're married to Jesus.
oh
So it's
yeah,
their,
yeah,
it's their
yeah.
wedding band, and they have a big giant nun ring. And I cannot begin to tell you how much my principal was. I don't know if she was a Golden Gloves boxer in her past, but I don't care what you thought you were going to do. You're not going to dodge her ability to take that nun ring and plant it in your temple
Oh my
with
gosh. That
precision.
must
She
have
was
hurt.
awesome. She pow. She would just crack a kid in the skull,
I
knock him
like your sound
senseless.
effect.
It was, I mean, it was technically it was torture and abuse, but I was like I've said to other folks, it's like the only thing you can do about it now is laugh. I mean,
Hmm.
that it's a coping strategy for children.
It
I
is,
saw
and I
kids
think
getting I saw kids
sorry,
getting tuned up, so the only way to deal with it is to figure out how to laugh about it and tease each other about it afterwards. But in reality, I mean, I've seen kids get almost knocked out.
yeah, and you know what? It happened at home too with me.
Mm,
And the thing of it is I feel that that's why, Eric, like some of us have passive aggressive. You know, I have DID, which is dissociative
identity
personality
disorder.
disorder.
Mhm.
That's what they said.
Mm.
They labeled me SMI. They said I was severely mentally ill because I tried to kill myself. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm
DID
not.
it's really they should retitle it to defensive identity disorder.
That's
It's
a
a,
good
it's a
one.
natural creation of the psyche of a child to protect that child. It's actually completely appropriate, or the child would suffer differently. So it's just a process that's completely natural. Mother Nature has all kinds of things for its animals, all different tools and accessories that we all get, so that psyche of a human child is tolerated the ability to dissociate when it is put in a situation that is more traumatic than that child's psyche is prepared to deal with. It's just natural. So there's a little diversion, a dissociation to something that is less negatively impacted, which from a psychological standpoint is just growth. You're actually just immediately growing. So what they're calling a failure of mentality, or in a way they're assuming it to be like crippling, like to your detriment. It's actually a superpower. What you have the ability to do
Exactly.
is when things go wrong, where other people would actually just collapse or die, you have the ability to expand consciously and become reborn at that moment. Like literally, it's like a phoenix coming out of the fire at that second, whenever you need to do that. How
Thank you
is
for
that
telling me that.
bad for you?
Mm-hmm.
I can understand somebody else's inability to understand that. I can understand them having a little bit of jealousy about it too. But the reality is what they can't do is say that what you're doing is to your detriment as a dissociator. Now, the trying to take your own life, that's a whole other debate, but that's not necessarily an inherent thing from dissociative identity disorder. There's plenty of people that don't have DID and attempt suicide. So they're not directly related. So
Yeah, I have.
dissociation is actually a superpower.
Yeah, I have many alters due to that.
That's a lot of different hero uniforms you get to wear is all it really boils down to.
Yeah, that's why.
Every one of those creations showed up at a time where you needed it, and it became an ability.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I noticed them coming out when I would drink a lot and I would black out, and then the people around me would say, "Oh, this person, you became this person," or this, not necessarily you became this person, but you acted in this way. Or I do remember, like, even if because I don't drink to black out anymore, thank goodness. I with the weight loss, with the DNA activation, I don't really need to, like, it's not fun anymore. Okay. Like, it's not a coping thing for me. I learned other ways to cope, like exercise and just breathing and just going out to nature, on a bike ride or whatever, or just riding, other coping skills. But I do notice that sometimes I'll wake up and there's an altar that has a different accent or is way manic than the other ones. Like some people will get afraid, like, why are you so happy? Are you on drugs? No, I'm just happy, but then again, some people cannot stand other people that are happy. They automatically want to
there is a capacity of people in our society that just they can't enjoy other people excelling or doing well and moving forwards, and they'll even try to hold them back. I mean, that's unfortunate. People see people trying to advance and they'll do what they can to hold them back because they just can't fathom someone passing them by. But it happens. And SSP folks, I think, are more challenged in this direction because, as you know, there's a lot of folks that are targeted. It makes their life harder. It makes their experience difficult because they don't seem to, I guess, just get this similar assistance that other folks would have in other social circles. Because being honest, as an SSP veteran, first and foremost, get you a very small social circle.
Yes.
And it's a social circle of people that are targeted against success. So it's almost like by design. You're really rooting for the underdog if you're going to throw your hat in the SSP ring. Because it's not going to really be to your benefit. But it is what it is. And somebody has to cheer the underdog. Somebody has to hold that line.
Right.
And I think this brings us right back to the value of the First Earth Militia, is that us SSP folks know firsthand what it means to be ostracized, what it means to not have the law support you when you need it. To take all these agencies that everybody else puts faith in to be their saviors someday in the future. I think folks like you and I would rapidly laugh at the possibility of some problem coming down the pipe. And then, like Ronald Reagan says, knock, knock, it's the U.S. government. We're here to help.
Yeah, right.
It's not helpful.
No.
And it's very
No,
sad.
I've had to go to court many times and it's never to my favor. So it's
No.
like, no, they don't want you to succeed. They don't want, but that's what makes us more tough, I guess, than the average Joe, because we know our abilities. We know, like, again, coming back to what we started talking about, unconditional love, you know who you are, and you are gonna manifest what you need.
Absolutely.
Every month I'm like, how did I do it this month? I made it another month, but sometimes I do get tired of like,
the roller coaster of life can be very taxing.
Yeah.
The ups and downs. I mean, it's not as much fun as being on a roller coaster when you're having to deal with it for reality, not recreationally.
Right.
It's very different.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do a lot of plumbing service calls, and people, look at me and go, "Oh, well, it must be nice. You're going to help people all the time." Say, that's great. They don't look at it that way. Nobody woke up and was looking to give me that money. It's not like you're going to someone's house and putting in a brand new bathroom because they wanted it. That's totally different. Everywhere I went, people were having the worst day of their life and probably didn't have the money they intended to give to me. It wasn't their intention to give me that money that day.
Right.
So perspectives and things like that very much matter. And I think the SSP perspective is going to be helping people out in the not too distant future, because I think more people are going to be waking up. I do have hope that things are going to be better in the future. But realistically, following that hope, that good thought requires good action. The good thought is these programs are going to shut down. The problem is more people are going to wake up to experiences and histories that resemble yours and mine and other folks that have been in these programs. And we don't need them all trying to kill themselves.
Exactly.
I get that dissociation can be challenging, but folks like you and I and Penny and other folks that are trying to connect to do good things, we're just trying to open people's eyes to give them a little bit of foreshadowing so they don't get sucker punched. Nobody likes seeing their friend get sucker punched. If you can give them a little bit of warning and let them know. But I think there's a blow coming regardless, but it's I think it's respectful to try to wave the flag of warning to folks and or be there to pick up the pieces after they get sucker punched, because it's coming. We're not the only ones in these programs. The paperwork clearly identifies massive amounts of people processed through these programs through many different states in the country. I was over in the Long Island area. They brought folks in from other areas to Long Island. There's other facilities down in Texas, down in Maryland. So they've moved people all over the place. And people are going to find out.
And I remember some of my flashbacks. I do remember being in Mexico. In Mexico, and the underground bases, the labs, so many labs.
Have you done in the way of getting your memories back? Have you ever tried doing past life regressions or anything like that?
I haven't done a past life regression, but I have had flashbacks of my past lives.
Okay.
That would be a good idea.
I was thinking about doing that too, so I just wasn't sure if you had any recommendations. I've worked with some folks doing certain modalities of healing and such, but not anything that was technically past life regression.
Right, and in readings, it's funny because that's why I kind of had to put up the amount, I guess you could say, of the readings, because a lot of people are asking me about their past lives, and I don't need the tarot cards to tell them, because it just comes, but it kind of feels like I'm being drawn toward doing regressions for people. Like, I don't really have a sorry about this tape. I have tape on my camera. I don't have an equation or a rule to do it. It just comes. So I don't know. I might.
I feel like in these programs, here's just an idea that I have. This is my opinion, that in these programs, as children, something happened. We were negatively impacted. I almost feel like we either figured out how to overcome and came up with some plan, or we were assisted by others to help us overcome, and that now we're just in this path, right? That we're basically like little helpers. We've always been little helpers. As little kids, we were traumatized, put in these bad programs, but we still figured out how to be good little kids, to be good little helpers, to rectify the problem, as difficult as that apparently was. But that formatting is in our core still.
Yes.
And it's resurfacing that we're identifying the problems that we're familiar with from our experience, and we can't help but try to help others and heal others for the traumas and experiences that we're familiar with. We're natural born helpers and healers. And that's also the side effect of traumatizing children, is, yes, it's negative for that child. It's actually really good for the society around it. It actually makes really like good people, technically. You know, I believe you're probably a good person, that when you're out in the community, you're probably eyes, ears. I mean, you got into the police force for a while. It shows your core structure. I know when you're out and about, right? If something goes down, you're going to get involved.
I am.
You know, I've seen that show. What would you do? With I think Pablo, I forget the guy's name, something Ruiz. But there was this show, What Would You Do? And he goes out on the street and they set up these scenes and see how people react. You know, so it would be like a fake mugging. You know, but I
Wow,
know,
that's interesting.
yeah. So they see how people react in these situations that they manufacture, and you'll be surprised how many people, if they see an old lady getting mugged, they'll walk away.
Whoa.
It happens. But I know you wouldn't do that.
No.
Because you don't have it in you. You wouldn't be able to go in the other direction.
Right.
You'd be compelled to get involved in any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
It's just, it's in your core nature. I can read it. We all have that. SSP folks are mandatory volunteers, I would say, would be the way that I would look at it. You know, you're going to volunteer.
And not only
yourself
that, it's just compassionate, like you said,
and that comes from the trauma, is that you can't witness somebody else being wronged without getting involved.
Right.
It's not possible. You couldn't do that. But that's good, and I think that more folks need that in their lives. You know, so we can give folks that example, just lead by example, and show folks that, come what may will, because bad things do happen. We don't need to ignore them in the slightest. We need to learn to cope with them. You know, ignoring a problem doesn't make it better.
Exactly.
But that seems to be society right now, is just, smile, everything's great. Someone else will fix it.
Yeah, I can't do that. And it's, if I see someone with a need, and if I have whatever they need, I'm going to give it to them. If it's my time, if it's, food, I love to give food away. My dreams are basically saving kids and
feeding them.
And feeding them after.
Right?
Tons and tons of food everywhere. Do you
I
have
can
the
imagine.
same?
I can see the look on your face. I could picture you being in all of your glory if you're like at some table dispensing just tons of foods to tons of hungry kids. You just be in all your glory. Here, eat, manjaman.
Yeah, totally. Like when people come to visit me, even if I have, I don't know, like bread or say like sandwich stuff, or I don't know, something, I'll say, siéntate a comer, come and eat. I'll make you some coffee. You want some coffee? Fruit, something. They gotta eat. If they're at my house, they gotta eat. At my apartment, they gotta eat something.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it's lost in society nowadays. Unfortunately, the government's been trying to legislate charity for too long. And that's not the business that the government should be in. It should come from the people. It should come from the community. And instead of taxing people to death under the false pretense of charity so that people don't have any money to give, let them keep their money. Let everybody in society have a level of abundance so that they can choose how they share it.
Exactly.
I don't think there's ever been a lack of charitable minds. I think there's just a lack of charitable pockets nowadays. I think everybody wants to do good, but they're limited in their abilities because they're just like burdened to death by wasteful programs and things that don't need to exist.
Right. You know, now that you're talking about wasteful programs, I had my own business for 6 years. So I was a realtor, then I had my own business, then I was a cop, and then before that I went into the military.
Hmm.
Okay, so I owned it's called Better Home and Gardens Home Interior Incorporated. And at the same time, I was in Primerica. And in 2003, I was #1 in both.
Hmm.
Now, in Primerica, what they would teach us is you have to make the portfolio. You have to have your IRAs. You have to have your emergency money. You have to have your retirement. You got to have your life insurance. Got to have your mortgage insurance. Okay, all
And they'll
that.
sell you all of that at Primerica.
Yes. But you know, that's a program. It's like,
I know, I
never have
know.
someone
I went to
that
some
needs it.
I went to some Primerica seminars, and I was like, "Wow, is this some of the most insane regimented program that I've ever seen?" It was really off the wall how they ran that group.
Especially with stocks and bonds. It's like, well, the red here, the aggressive here, not so aggressive. I'm like, oh my, I learned a lot, but I'm like, that's unnecessary. I feel like now that you manifest, if you need something, you throw it out to the universe, throw it out to yourself and say, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I need this much and I need to pay this bill. I need to help this other person. And it happens like that because of your belief in yourself, in your manifestation powers, in your abilities. None of this,
Happen.
oh my gosh, I got to take out a loan. No loans, no credit cards, no more.
Cash is king, and people forget that. I mean, our society on a whole is negatively impacted by individuals' choices to work their lives off of credit instead of cash. Technically, if everyone chose to use cash, our society would be better for it. They are suckered into the convenience of the other methods, but they don't understand the burdens on themselves as individuals or the systems that they're supporting or the society that they're in. Cash is king is a dead statement. People don't even know why.
I do everything cash.
The king is dead, and it was killed for a reason. Like someone came and murdered the king.
Right.
You know, but for those that are wise enough that run around with cash still and don't have every single purchase that they do tracked and every single thing interconnected for the powers that be, and everybody, oh, that's not that's not a big deal. What are you worried about? You know, well, apparently,
Oh, that's a tracking thing.
yeah. I mean, just because they're ignorant to the problem doesn't mean there's no problem. You know,
exactly.
I came running down the stairs and I said, the 3rd floor is on fire. You don't have to believe me. You can get out of the building or not.
Exactly. Like when I was going to church, you know, back in the day, I don't anymore because I have my own heart here, my own, I guess we'll say, church or way of living now. I'm a code breaker for religion, in other words. So anyway, the pastor would say, just because you didn't see the sign of 30 miles an hour and you're going 60 doesn't mean that you're not going to get a ticket. You know, in Spanish, he would say, yo no sabía, I didn't know. And it's like a running joke in my family because it's like, it happens with everything. Well, I didn't know. Well, really? It's like, okay, but the rule still applies. Like, you know? Yep. So I thought that was funny how you said that. Yeah. As well.
Before Newton discovered gravity and the apple and all of that stuff, right? Guess what? If he tripped over a rock, you still fell.
Exactly.
You didn't have to know what gravity was. You're still going to break your knee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get that all the time. And that's, and not for nothing, that brings us right back around again to your experience, my experience, and other SSP folks. Just because these folks aren't aware, just because it's not their experience doesn't mean it didn't happen. Just because they didn't know. Yeah. We're just here to let them know it happened. I mean, my work on my page, go to my YouTube page, Deciphering My Experience, and look at all the videos that I put up with CIA documentation, with actual proof. I mean, I certainly have an opinion on things, and I'm going down that road, but I'm going down a road that's supported by proofs. I'm not trying to convince anybody of a sham. I'm just going right to the source. The root of all evil is these government agencies that have been doing, you know, secret experiments on children for decades without their families knowing. I mean, is that wrong for me to try to do?
I'm glad you have that documentation on there.
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of people want proof and evidence, but even if we do have proof and evidence, they're still gonna badmouth you or whatever. It's like it's not until it happens to them or their kids or something.
Mhm.
You know, like I always say in Spanish, no tires piedras a una casa de vidrio. Don't throw rocks at a house that's built out of glass because you never know. Could be your kid next,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, when they're older.
Mhm.
And the problem that I have right now lately is we are a family. We're SSP family. There's so many people talking crap about each other. I say, you know what? Me callo la boca. I just close my
Close your
mouth
mouth.
because once you speak it, the spell goes out. We're
Mhm.
supposed to love each other. Yes, I understand that we're fighting out there, taking care of Mother Earth, fighting the galactic wars, saving the children. I understand that we have the opposing team, and it could be your own SSP brother or sister, but it's like enough is enough. I've had this morning, I was thinking, man, this crap's got to stop because we're not here to fight here in the 3D. We're supposed to help each other,
That's exactly why I
And
started the First Earth Militia, because we are all in this together. The bickering has to stop. We're all on the same team when it comes down to brass tacks. When every other government organization fails us, when every police force, when everything has their boot on the throat of the average citizen, that's when we're at militia level. That's when we're all in it together. Colors don't matter. Languages don't matter. Histories and experiences almost don't matter. It's at that point, it's either do we all want to survive against our foe or not? That's what it's going to boil down to. And if that's right around the corner, then we need to hustle up and work together. If it's not right around the corner, then cool. We still need to prepare for that day together, by being honest and sharing and working collectively and getting beyond all of our differences, all the boundaries, all the barriers, and all the divisions that are manufactured by propaganda to keep us off the right track of unity.
exactly. Mhm.
Everything that comes
Sorry.
out of the TV or the mass media nowadays is to start an argument. All they want to do is get people bickering, get people fighting, texting each other. I'm mad, and you don't agree with everything that I say, so we can't be friends anymore. It's
Right.
ridiculous. It just shows that everybody's suffering the programming, which is all us SSP folks are saying. Is like, look, it's not happening to us anymore. It's happening to you.
Yeah,
We
in different
we
ways.
beat the programming, and you're all suffering it, and we're just trying to let you know because the programming's harsh and you're caught in it.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, I used to be involved highly. When I was a kid, I couldn't wait to turn 18 because all I wanted to do was vote.
Oh geez.
Then I got involved with the Democratic Party, and I was putting up signs for
See how
them.
well they programmed you?
Yeah.
You were
And
raised to vote Democrat.
Yeah. And then I went into the Christian world, and then I became a Republican.
Oh,
And then you
new
know what?
programming. You had a
Yes.
software
And then I
upgrade.
stopped. My daughter was upset with me the other day because she's like, why aren't you going to vote? And I'm like, I am not, first of all, I'm not owned by any sides. They're both puppets.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm not here to talk crap about them, but I know some truth. Okay. I know that the Tesla things on the red side has to come out. The super soldier program has to come out. And I don't want the one that he's talking about right now, because that one is the one that I saw in a regression with James, the Black Shield program. I saw that they were using our 9-9. You know what 9-9 actually means? It's
I
the
don't.
9 strands. What I saw in my vision is the 9 strands and the 9 strands that we have in our DNA and our RNA as super soldiers. They're using our DNA, our blood, to make the new ones for their Space Force, when in fact we have us. So I really want, I don't know what we have to do as a whole. Probably just keep talking. And those that are afraid to talk, I understand some of you guys don't want to come out, but man, put your dukes up, like they say, and let's do it.
And just so
Because
everybody knows,
Mhm.
I'm trying to provide that environment. So I get that not everybody wants to come out and give their name and stuff. This radio show, you can come on this radio show anonymously. We do not have to use your name. And then additionally on my show as well, I have the capacity, if you want to go to a smaller audience, if the Global Enlightenment Radio Network is too big and broad for you, because too many people will hear, I get it. You can dwindle down to me over at Deciphering My Experience on YouTube. We're a teeny little thing, and if you want to share there, go for it. Whatever makes you comfortable. If you want to go public, go public. If you want a big audience, we got it. If you want a small audience and privacy, we can do that too. Just share. Don't be afraid.
Right.
Come out of the shadows. I mean, this is the time for everybody to speak their truth. And I mean, for all practical purposes, this is what our founding fathers created this country for, was freedom of speech. First and foremost, everybody should feel comfortable in their own voice.
And in their own skin too.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure.
And, you know, I talk a lot about this, like how the polls, yes, they're shifting and all that, but you know what? We're shifting as individuals. And I tell people, you know, it's now time to get rid of those toxic people, those toxic workplaces. It's now time to start your own business. It is now time to, like Penny Bradley said, if you have a fire in your belly, then go for it. If not, then don't. And I went for it. I told my daughter, I use this thing. I say, I'm going to go big because I can't go home. I tried. Go big or go home. You know, I'm not here, you know, to just sit here and do nothing. I see myself in visions and in dreams speaking with all of us SSPs and others in big, huge auditoriums outside, off planet, in planet, you know. It's school. Like I see myself in a lot of classrooms. So it's like, I know that we're here to help one another, to unite, to, you know, and not be all, because, you know, it's all like, can't be like, oh, it has to be like a format too, you know. We got to just come together, because we could get so excited and then lose like what is the goal really? Like, the goal is to help heal others that are coming forth. And yes, you're going to go crazy at first, because when I had my enlightening, my first awakening, I saw the reptilians, I saw the Dracos, I saw the ships. I still see them, but they were in my hallway. I had to sleep with the light on for 2 months. And it's like, it was just like so much that I remembered why I shut down as a kid. My mom would say, hey, you know, you're seeing things, you're crazy. You know, that's all just in your mind. But now that I'm fully awakened, and there's the train, the matrix, beware of the Mr. Smiths and Mrs. Smiths. I always say, beware who in reality is your friend or not. Who's there? You're gonna know by they support you financially. Like, I'm gonna go to Las Vegas. I don't know how. Last year I couldn't go because I didn't have the funds, but this year I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna manifest it. There are genuine and legit people out there that will help you for your purpose, your journey on this earth, because we did not come here to just be recycled over and over for their enjoyment. I'm sorry, kids, but I ain't here for that.
Nope.
That was my commercial.
What's I didn't even know what's this Vegas event that you're talking about?
I didn't know until Penny told me. I was on with her on her show 2 days ago, and she invited me to go in March, and it's in Las Vegas. And I sent a message, 2 messages to Sahid David Freeman, I think his name is. And so hopefully I'm just waiting for him to get back that way, because there's people waiting saying, come on, Beto, tell me how much it is. I'll pay for this or I'll pay for that. And I just know that I'm here to help too, you know? So
do it up.
Let's do this.
There you go. Yep. Get that voice heard, share it, let everybody know what's going on. What now are there, from your experience in communicating, or I should say not communicating, but engaging? So like in my mind's eye, I feel like there's more people impacted, right? So when you're out and about, are you also seeing what would be folks that you think might have been impacted by SSP type programs, but they don't know it yet either? Do you see that?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay,
yes.
so I'm not the only one.
I do.
Okay.
But like Penny says, she's like, I'm not going to tell them that they were in the program. They have to experience it by themselves. And I see it, and I just want to tell them, yes, you are an SSP, but it's not until they book a reading or they ask me specifically, okay, either timelines or past life. Was I in the program? I feel like I'm from this star place. I feel like I'm from that planet. So it's like, it's not until they exchange energy, we'll say, and they put it out to me that I'll tell them I don't want to implant something that's not there, like a rumor. You know what I mean? But yeah, I see it.
That. Yeah, I see it in the general cross section of society. Like I feel like even in conversations and stuff, sometimes certain topic words or keywords will hit in a sentence, and you can watch someone get triggered, and you can watch them switch out like right in front of
Yes,
you, and
I
it just
do.
it is what it is. And at that point, you just kind of look at them a little sideways, and now it's intriguing to me because now I wonder like how did they get like that? I don't have an issue with it. It's just an observation, and now to me, it's just like I look at it as like I see a potential peer. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
But you're
That's
right. You
nice.
can't bring it to that person's attention. You can't be like, hey, I just saw you disassociate.
Right.
What happened to you when you were a kid?
Yeah. Or yeah,
Yeah, you
exactly.
can't
What
do
have you
that. Like it's not a conversation starter, Like, wow, I just saw you
Yeah.
switch out. You must have got your ass beat, huh? Tell me all about it. What was your childhood like in dissociation land?
Do you have abandonment issues? Did your mom leave you? Did your dad leave you?
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
already see.
yeah.
I see it all.
Yeah, and then the only other odder thing than going in that direction is to just go the completely other direction and just jump over and give him a hug because you feel bad for him. Like, oh man, I get it. I'm so sorry. And then that's just even weirder.
Yeah, exactly. And with the dating thing with me, I stopped already because it's too many CIA, 6 CIA agents were sent this year to me.
Oh my God, I
And
couldn't
4 of
imagine.
them said they were gonna marry me and leave, their planet or whatever they call it, their state, their life, and I'm yours and you're all this crap. And then, the last one I did kind of fall for, but I'm like, no, I started seeing the red flags faster. And it's like, no, the last one kept me from going to Vegas. He started implanting all these things, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, no, this is wrong. Wait a minute. You totally see the person's shapeshift, or you totally, like you said, just what the average person will say, you get to see all that. And I don't want to do the dating thing anymore. It's because you start seeing everything. You start seeing the lies, and it's like you're wasting time. I feel like I'm wasting time, my time that I could be doing other things. So
yeah, it has to add up to some sort of value at the end of the day.
I tell a lot of women and men, it's like, be careful because they will send people to infiltrate your life, and it could even be a friend.
Oh my God. Yep. All day long, and it's like in the Matrix technically. They talk about there's a scene in the Matrix where they discuss the I think it's the woman in the red dress scene, if I remember correctly, and Morpheus discusses that at any point in time anybody in the Matrix can be like taken over and turned into an agent. That is so true with the technologies that they have nowadays. Is yes, any person that can almost have like a walk-in situation, like as if their personality turns off and then a completely different personality is inserted, engages the conversation, and then exits. And then your friend comes back.
Yes.
Yep.
It happens to me and my family. I see it, and then so I have to totally ignore. I have to totally switch. Issues or subjects, or just do something simple as picking up your phone or looking the other way, just to make them, not them, but them, the archons, or whatever you want to call them, acknowledge that you see them. Like, you know what, you're not gonna get me mad because the Hulk will come out. They know how to push the buttons on the Hulk. So I'm like, no, not today, baby. It's like I have to go to the bathroom, calm myself down, or sometimes I'll go to my car and scream because it's like, I can't go running at that time or whatever. I gotta let it out and refocus and say, this is just a game.
I've had fun sometimes where I've actually been able to turn it right back on the person and basically ask them to explain to me how, like, so like it would be like if I was in a conversation with someone and we're discussing a particular topic, right? And then all of a sudden they shift gears to a completely non-pertinent topic that is now some pointed triggery thing for me, right? So I would then just turn to the person and now ask them to explain to me how their brain went from where we were to where we're at now.
That's a good one.
And they themselves can't for the life of them figure out why they did that.
Right.
And they're like, well, I just wanted to know. Explain to me why you just wanted to know that out of where we just were. That doesn't really make any sense, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's like saying, "Who are you and what do you want?" Who
in
are
a
you
way,
and what do you want?
they're trying to trigger and get a
Yeah.
situation, and they're just they're testing triggers is really what it boils down to, and they know where they can fire them from, and you just don't have to play the game.
Right. Yeah. It feels good to actually know, like to actually be awake. Sometimes I'm like, man, can I go back to sleep? And it's like, you can't, because your due diligence, your duty, your life passion, your goal. Why are you here? Why are we here? But sometimes some days are rough. It's like, man, I don't want to get out of bed. Like, I don't want to go work out. I don't want to, like little kids, I don't want to.
And that's something your brain was right where I was at on this one, Veronica, was that it's like we're just giant kids. A lot of people don't seem to realize that, right? We grow up and we're simply children in adult suits. And we can all act like we're so smart and so capable and so competent because now I'm an adult. But, I mean, seriously, come on, look around, folks. Adults? We're all adults. So what does that mean? We're competent, capable, moving forwards in a good direction like we thought adults were doing when we were children?
We don't have all the answers, though.
Not in the slightest. It turns out that what we learned from children is that we grow up into a world of adults that are not working for everybody's best interest.
Right.
They're actually all working against each other's best interests, but that's not something they teach the average kid in school. Certain ones, SSP kids, learn about different factions and functions and things like that. But it's bamboozlement. It's programming. Like when we're kids, you're gonna grow up and become an upstanding part of a good society that's doing good things for the benefit of the children in school. But now you, as a person who wants to do better in school, that's a sham.
It was competition, especially with like I said, the academic decathlon. I was sent to Washington, D.C. 2 of us kids got selected. It's always competition. It's always testing, hand-to-hand combat too, in the military and police. They want to know who the strongest is. And like you said earlier, they want to know who's going to freeze, fight, or fly away. They want to know.
In every capacity, every child is going to get screened for every possible thing that every group in the future might need,
and they want the best of the best.
They want the best of the best, and they don't necessarily wait until someone chooses to be in something. So I've spoken to a lot of folks in my history and my family and my experience, and one of the things that I have to consider is that for the job that I was contracted for in the Navy, in the submarines on the weapons platforms, up to and including nuclear capable weapons. So in order to have someone in that chair that the United States Navy feels is when they dictate that you're going to hit that button and do your job, I've basically learned that training doesn't start when you're 18.
No.
If they want to make that product, they have to start way earlier.
Like in the fetus position.
That's what a lot of folks are saying.
Yeah.
If you really want to make sure that person will do what you want them to do, and is that important, then the training starts prior to their knowledge. And that happens for a lot of jobs in a lot of positions. I'm special in as so far as it's my experience, but I'm not special in as so far as that I'm the only one experiencing these things. A lot of people are treated this way, and a lot of these programs are basically farming for labor for their departments at starting points that would really blow people's minds.
Exactly. I agree.
It's sad, but this is what we need the world to know, is that children should be allowed to live their lives as children. And we shouldn't be looking so deeply into it as a labor pool. I get that the children are the labor force of the future, but boy, if we can just let them be kids first, would be kind of cool.
Yes, let them play.
Yep. I think contemporarily, our children aren't allowed to be children anymore. That they're
Especially now with the technologies, right? With the iPads, they pretty much sorry.
Yep. They're all
They're
rushed to
pretty
work.
much
Everything's work, work, work. The program is you got to get up, you got to work, you got to train to work, which is
the 9 to
bogus.
5 mentality.
Yeah, whatever happened to folks like Buckminster Fuller and the idea of efficiency in industry? Technically, right now, we're all living the lie of industrialization, and the Industrial Revolution was promising the American worker that he would have recreational time because the machines were supposed to keep him from having to work savage amount of hours in a week, and now he's going to have 4 and 5 and 6 days off because the machines are going to do it.
Yeah, right.
But it turns out we work more. It turns out we can't have a single income household to support the children anymore. It turns out now a double income household is barely able to let people get by in raising their children. This is insanity, folks. It's not real, actually. It's a manufactured false paradigm of false scarcity, lack of resources. You know, it's blatant mismanagement.
Right. And we do have all the food in the world. We do have all the water in the world, all the technology, but no, they want to make money off of us.
Yes. There's absolutely enough food on this planet for everyone. There's enough water on this planet for everyone. There's enough resources on this planet for everyone. They're simply mismanaged. That's all there is to it. We manufacture enough food every year to feed every person. We throw food out, though. That's simply mismanagement of resources. It's not a lack of food.
Exactly. And all the commercials of food, you know, oh, you got to be eating. And all the GMOs, all the Monsanto, you know, he took over the corn. It's hard for me to even eat maybe a corn tortilla here and there because I'm like, oh man, is this organic or not? You know,
there's the corn in this
country. Is it going to hurt my stomach?
Yeah, there's certain products that are just ruined. Corn's ruined. Wheat's ruined. You shouldn't really eat either one of them. Chicken is basically ruined in this country.
There are some chicken that I have tasted. I'm like, this doesn't taste like, doesn't act like, doesn't look like regular chicken. And my stomach will always tell me, you know, you either ate the right one or the wrong one.
I laugh because it was funny at the time, but now I question whether it's true or not. But I remember when Kentucky Fried Chicken changed all their stores to where it simply said KFC.
Yeah.
And I remember my brother, who's not much of a conspiracy theorist, but my brother was flipping out. He's like, that's because it's not chicken. They can't write chicken on there anymore because it would be illegal. So it's now just called KFC. They're not using chicken.
It's true.
I believe
then,
it.
you know what? This is weird, okay? I know Max Spears talked about it with the KFC.
Oh.
And I know we're adults here, so do you remember what he said?
I don't know what he said about KFC.
The F for the effing.
Oh, there you go.
It's basically a food that, you know, that makes you want to have more sex. And
then, no, I thought he just meant that they like ruined it, like they effed it over.
No.
Oh,
and then he said, and then I've been thinking about this one since he spoke about it. The M for McDonald's, the Monarch, the number 13, you know, the reincarnation cycle. And then when I deciphered Code Broke Wizard of Oz, the yellow brick road, okay. So I didn't know as a kid until now. I saw it again. I would see it forever, every year. And I just saw it this year again with my open mind. And, you know, they're taking the Tin Man and everybody to get the lion to get the courage, the heart, whatever. And they put him in these beds. They are the actual, that's the lab to take their consciousness out and put them in a new body. But us as kids are like, oh, they just, you know, painted their tin can, or she just got a new hairdo or whatever as kids. And they're actually showing us, you know, in a way, kind of like the regen tanks and the med beds and things like that. Do you remember that?
I do remember the movie, and it's ripe with symbolism. And I think everybody should pay attention to these things, especially that one. I mean, in particular, the Wizard of Oz has a lot going on in it for symbolism and programming in general. I mean, think about how many people have seen the movie The Wizard of Oz at this point. Okay.
And remember the snow when it comes and then everybody falls asleep and things like that.
The poppy field.
Well, and Carrie Cassidy, she talks about how when you don't want people to read your mind, to think about snow.
Oh,
And it does
interesting.
work. I've
Is
used it.
that interesting? That's a great technique. Thank you for sharing that. Everybody
You're
remember that
welcome.
one. If you think that your mind is being intruded upon, think of snow. I like that one. It makes sense,
Mhm.
actually.
And it
Another thing
also
about that
messes up the
movie
AI. Sorry.
is that think of all the people that have seen that movie, and are you familiar with the fact that there was a suicide on the set of the movie that's in the movie?
Hmm.
So there's a body hanging in the original movie that was there for years and years and years and years. So technically, that programming, and Mark Passio talks about this stuff, and you don't have to believe in it technically, but you have to understand that other people do. So you don't have to be a practicing Satanist to understand that practicing Satanists exist, and they
Exactly.
do have a belief system, and they
Hmm.
certainly would enjoy having a dead body hanging in the background of a movie, so that everybody's basically being programmed by seeing this and being traumatized unbeknownst to them. And you don't have to support that means anything, but you do need to understand that Satanists do believe in these things, and they do try to do these things. So,
Yes, and it also has to do with the lynching, okay?
okay.
The lynching of, remember, the melanin dominant, right? And it's kind of like they want the kids to think that it's okay. And us as adults, oh, desensitization, you know. And there's another movie that I deciphered. It was called The Winters. You were asking about the Frozen movie the last time, but I actually wrote down Winter's War, and that's with Charlize Theron, and she's the one with the gold, and then her gold turns into black goo, and then the sister is the one in charge of the cold, the snow kingdom, and there's a lot of symbolism there. Super soldiers, there's little kids that are being taken as little kids to be trained for the queens to fight, and there's a mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, okay? And there's jealousy, you know. The black goo pretty much takes over, and so it's just what I do is, you know, it's hard to read a book or watch a movie because I'm decoding everything.
Mhm,
When I first had an awakening, I was reading about Kevlar
mhm,
online, and I'm like, whoa, Kevlar. I saw the spider webs, I saw the black goo, I saw how when we wear the metal plate to protect us as police officers, it's made out of black goo, it's made out of Kevlar. When I tell people stop drinking the black colas, it has black goo. It's the nanites, it's everything. It's about control, but just the people that are not awake, they'll call me crazy.
mhm. They're underinformed. That's all.
Yeah.
You've been privy to things that they haven't been privy to, and it's just life. That's why we need to share our experiences. Excuse me. So the people that you're talking to have not had a lot of exposure to a 20% story like yours. But if more people share their 20% story, they're going to learn that we all have them, and it'll be so much easier when we all realize that we have peers, and I know it's challenging because we have these memories from our childhood which we very happily just stuck on a shelf because we're comfortable with how we framed that memory at this moment. um, but in reality we need to go back and look at those photos and reframe them and understand what really happened and have a real conversation from a theoretically more adult perspective. What I experienced as a child from what I would call my first round at it, which means at that time back then, from that childlike 7-8-year-old perspective. I mean, I'm only limited in my experience to assess what was going on around me at the time, you know so I didn't have the idea in my head when I was being brought to the library in my elementary school. I didn't have the wherewithal to go, oh, this must be a top secret security program that I'm involved with that no one knows
Mhm.
about, including my parents, apparently, under the
Mhm.
false pretense of the trainings that were going on for mental practices and things like that.
Mhm.
But That's my 20%. And I'm reaching out and finding out that there are more people that were in these programs. Tony Rodriguez was a guy that I got in contact with because his story was Stargate related. And there were similar things that happened in his training that triggered things for me. And I was like, wait a minute, that's what I was doing in the library. And I thought I was getting training because they told me I was a smart kid.
Yeah,
But
I'm
now
glad
it
that you
turns
brought
out
that up.
that's not what that machine was for, apparently.
Yeah, I remember the library. I remember, oh, if you read 100 books this summer, you'll get a pizza. Well, I read the 100 books, and then the Apple computers, when they first got up, we had to put a bunch of the numeral codes every time, and you had to memorize that, and that's when they first came out.
That's actually something too that you bring up that I don't remember to discuss that one often enough. Thank you for that. Yes, I was in elementary school at a very young age. I was born in 1975, so I'm just a hair younger than you. So the computers are even more profound an experience for you. But even when I was in my grammar school, we had a savage computer room that was way ahead of its time. And as a child at a very young age, I was being taught DOS programming.
DOS.
And it's like, in hindsight, that was really, really, really ahead of its time. They didn't just start grabbing kids and giving them DOS training in the early 80s.
DOS and CAD, especially in automotive, because I took
Oh,
automotive.
I didn't get to do CAD. I would have really, I think I would have got more out of doing CAD. I was in DOS and I did not enjoy all the data entry it was driving. It wasn't fun to me. Like, I got the idea of where we were headed and what these things were going to do in the future. But now in hindsight, I almost feel like that's like another potential program that was going on, is that we were actually just little savage little data entry slaves that somehow had some skill set, and we would get brought into a computer room, put on stations and plugged in, and we would do what they told us to freaking. I didn't learn anything. I was doing freaking DOS data entry.
That's what we're doing, entering a lot of numbers, a lot of signs, everything.
Maybe that's how the programs work to create top secret programs, is they have little kids input the information, so they don't even know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with
Maybe that's how you don't have DOS. Maybe that would have helped out the polling practices nowadays, is that, maybe there's too many adults that are crooked involved. And back in the day, maybe they had it dialed in and they had all the kids input the info that didn't know what they were looking at, so it can't be compromised. You think you're in class, but it turns out you're building a satellite system program.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to be a programmer when I was a kid. I'm like, I want to do computer programming, but then I'm like, all that entering, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was tedious, and it's, but I mean, it's like, well,
I think I succumbed to the NASA programming. I was like, I want to be an aerospace engineer when I grow up.
I wanted to be an astronaut, and I have a picture of me in 5th grade with my astronaut suit. We had in the classroom, they picked out the people that we aced the capital states and capitals. They took us to watch Indiana Jones. Okay, what movie? Right? Indiana Jones. I wonder why. They took me and like 3 other kids because we won. And then we got into this NASA thing, and we got suited up with the aluminum foil. We made the globes, out of the Mod Podge and all that newspapers. And then they took a picture of us, and I still have that picture. And I wonder, all this propaganda, but they were pretty much using us all the time.
All the time. They just, again, it's a labor pool, and they're massaging it to get the product out that they want. And it doesn't mean that every kid in every program is going to give them the function they're looking for, but it just means every kid is going to get filtered through a machine that messes with that kid until that machine spits it out and says, this is what we believe this child will be most valuable for in the future.
Right.
It's just chewing them up and spitting them out. And there's a lot less freedom of will in people's day-to-day operations today than they think. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you were to go back 20 years, are you more free 20 years ago or today? Pretty simple one, right? No one's asking you to put masks on 20 years ago. No one's telling you where you can and can't fly.
That one is okay. Have you heard of the Big 9 with Amy Webb that I speak about? The Big 9 AI companies? Okay. Well, she has this book out called The Big Nine. And what I deciphered from that is that they obviously what I see is that US is in a war with China. And the AI is here. They're dropping these drones, they're spying on us with the JVC computers, with the toasters, with the alarms, alarms in our home, the radios. Okay, there's cameras everywhere. So they want us now to wear a mask so that we don't devolve or just give the secrets that we SSP know and other intellectuals. And they're pretty much spying on us. They've been spying on us. It was a deal that went raw back in the Reagan years or whatever. They were supposed to pay China with gold, but Clinton, we know he did something with tungsten or painted it, and it wasn't gold. Okay, so all this stuff.
It's always scams.
Yeah, all these scams, and now we're at war with China.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that this come out in March, I saw a strand of AI mixed with fear, mixed to mess our crown, which is our corona, where our deciphering abilities come through, other than our heart chakra. And a lot of people said, oh, but a lot of people are dying, Veronica. And I'm like, yeah, because it attacks you with fear. It does have this AI strand that's going to test your body with nanites. And I told everybody, don't get the test because the tests come from China and they are compromised. Even the ones here in the US.
That's everything that's going on now. Everything's compromised. It's basically like that was kind of the whole point of what I was getting at, is that we're so not free. Everything's compromised. You're right. And 20 years ago, we didn't have this level of compromise. And I question, like, in hindsight, right? Again, back to technology and industry. Is society actually better off? Could what's going on in our country today have happened in 1980? And the answer is no, because the technology would not support such an assault.
Right.
So now people need to really assess, are these technologies being made expressly for the purposes of such an assault under the false pretense of a convenience?
Yes.
And yes, that's exactly what's going on. And if people study people like James Giordano, who I have actually covered on my Deciphering My Experience as well, and put some links up for him, and neuroweapons and the battlefield of the mind, that's where we're at today, folks.
Yes, it's the battlefield of the mind.
It's the battlefield of the mind. And all of these technologies are actually weaponized technologies, and people think of it backwards. They think of it like, oh, well, the cell phone existed first, and then someone bad came and weaponized it. No, that's not what happened, boys and girls. They created the cell phone. Its original intent was as a weapon.
Yes.
It was sold under the false pretense of a convenience, that all the bells and whistles and apps that come with it. But that's not what it was created for.
They're listening in. They're taking your data. They take your blood pressure. They're monitoring your heart rate. They see like how you react in certain situations just by the sweat on the phone on the palm of your hand, or just by the heartbeat. They can hear your eardrums. They can tell when your stomach or your gut, whatever, is balanced or imbalanced. They obviously know what you eat or when you go to the bathroom. That's why I tell people, they're gonna listen to us anyway. Cover your freaking camera. I left my phone at home the other day, and it felt good.
I always leave my phone at home. I think it's hilarious that people can't leave their house without their phone. What is it going to be, the end of the world? You're not going to get that text about nothing, about nonsense,
Or that like on Instagram.
Yeah. I mean, people don't pick up their phones now anyway. You text someone, they're not going to answer you back. It used to be back in the day, we had friends and we would pick up the phone and we would call them and we'd have interactions, and then people got to texting because they would say, oh, it's so great because you can get in touch with your friends so much faster, and all these things to get you in touch with faster. And now they've gone in the reverse direction. They're all technologies that keep us at distance. You text
and
your
they're
friend
studying your brain too.
They don't even respond back half the time. And then, try to get someone on the phone nowadays. If you call someone on the phone, it's like you committed a sin. How dare you call me without texting me first and interrupting my life? It's like, dude, I thought we were friends. I thought that's what friends do.
Exactly. I love.
Sorry for the intrusion. But it's a
True.
different world nowadays, and I think we need to get back. I think technology has been to our detriment. I think it's a very good debate that I could put up, that we're not in this wonderful world that we're supposed to be at due to technology. I mean, people scream from the hills about the conveniences, but they won't talk about the burdens and the problems.
Mhm.
It is what it is. I mean, what would people blame their problems on at work anymore if they didn't have computer systems?
True.
You know, if we just simply stripped the workplace of computers and people had to be competent again, whoa, what the hell would happen?
Mhm.
Nothing ever goes wrong in any environment anymore where somebody just doesn't simply say the computer did it. Oh, the computer, the program, the this, the file, the blah, 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 blah. Cool. So it was your computer, so it's your fault. So it's not my
It's like,
fault.
where's the culpability? Like, where's the how do you say, where's the wanting to take responsibility
Correct.
for the individual's culpability?
Right.
And see, that's when people start doing that, and that's why I name my channel Unchained Hearts, because you start to unchain your heart. You start to unchain that mentality of somebody else's fault.
Yep. The computer's
it's
a
my fault.
coworker in the business environment.
Exactly.
Right. So if your computer, if your computer's name was John, and a customer came in and something was the matter, and you went, "Oh, it was John's fault," it's still your company. You still don't do that.
Yeah.
You don't just point blame and then expect the customer to deal with it. You have to rectify the problem.
Yeah.
It's so funny, but people can't seem to get their heads in the right direction anymore. I don't know, just choose to do the right thing, I guess, is lost in society. Like you were saying, they don't just really step up and go above and beyond. They'll just blame the scapegoat and be content. You know, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have done something differently," and you know,
then it's too late, right?
Oh,
then maybe that person's gone.
After you.
What?
I said you saw the lights flash and you thought they were after you. I saw that. I saw that car go by.
No, they don't dare stop me. They know who I am.
Oh, 10-4. Like, oh no, not her again. Hey, it happens.
Call it off. Call it off, John. Don't forget about that 84. We don't need good old Tony. But anyway, I better go. Can I make it up to you, and next time make sure that I'm at home and everything?
Oh, no problem at all. I would love to have another chat at another time. I do appreciate you making it in today.
I'm so sorry.
It happens. It totally happens. I've been late for shows before as well, with all these different folks and different times and trying to coordinate and schedule things. I goof things up too, so don't sweat it. And I will take you up on another conversation in the future. I'd love to have you back and we can talk more.
Are you going to go to Vegas in March? So I can finally
look into that. You just tipped me off to it as a possibility. I didn't know it was going on, but I'll definitely take a look into it. Send me. You have my email, so just send me a link on it or a text or whatever, and so that I know that I'm hitting the right thing.
Yeah, that's as soon as David sends it to me, or maybe even Penny has it. I don't know. Maybe we can do something like definitely do something like that. I'll text a message to Penny, and then I will, because I like to back my word, and like I always tell people, may your yes be yes and your no be no. And if you can't do it, make sure you call them and say, hey, let's do this another day, or I'm sorry, this is going on. But
no worries. We'll put our best foot forward tonight. I appreciate the time that you gave me, Veronica, and I would love to get that info from you. And please drive safely when you're headed home.
I will. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Much love to everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.